Hello everyone, this is Varsha and you are watching the series of success stories brought to you by Indian Achievers Forum. Once again, we are here with you all to discuss the success story of one more achiever of our end. This time we have with us Mr. Vivek Mahendra, Managing Partner of Vivika Advisory and Creators. Within education and biosciences, Vivek has been passionately working over the last decade on leveraging the learning from these disruptions to address the last mile gap for accessible, affordable, and accountable healthcare. Vivek has worked in close coordination to drive adoption of such initiative with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, Andhra Pradesh Primary Health Centers, the CSC e-governance services, World Health Organization, Integrated Health Information Platform, and various provider pharma payer ecosystem players across India, Brazil, UAE, Azerbaijan, and the US. Through the initiatives in the healthcare domain, Vivek has architected and delivered platforms that today touch over 1 million lives. But before we actually start the conversation with him, let's quickly have a look at a very small video telling you about what we actually do.
Indian Achievers Forum is driven by a full-fledged advisory board. The board consists of experienced personalities who have excelled in their respective careers. Together, the forum organizes conferences, events, workshops, exhibitions, trade shows, and B2B initiatives in India as well as abroad. Where there is passion, there is achievement. And where there is achievement, there is Indian Achievers Forum.
Hi,
Hello,
Varsha.
sir.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi,
how are
Varsha.
you?
How are you? Very good. Thank you so much.
Right, sir. So before we actually start the conversation, I'm very keen to know about your idea of, starting up with this venture of yours.
Sure. So I think it's important that you get a backdrop in terms of what the venture is all about. This venture is focusing on helping organizations adopt enterprise architecture as a discipline to improve their business outcomes. So I think as you would be aware that enterprise architecture as a term and as a discipline is often a misused and misunderstood discipline. Let me just maybe take you through some example. I think it'll give you a view on that. So I think the predominant mistake that we do is that when we look at enterprise architecture or business architecture or technology architecture or information architecture, we tend to use these terms interchangeably. And it has been it is both a issue for me when I engage with the ecosystem as well as when I engage with business, because if we use this interchangeably, we are ending ourselves into a state where we are able to drive the value that businesses would want to by leveraging the principles of EA. Now, it's almost like stating that enterprise a blueprint, like an architecture blueprint for a civil work, is same as maybe the building itself, which actually is not true. I think you'll appreciate that part. So, while enterprise architecture takes into account an entire life cycle view from an idea to usage, design is just one part of it. It incorporates various aspects such as technical, material, economic, regulatory factors, the environmental issues, and the ecological aspects. But it is just one aspect of the overall system. And one of the things that I believed was that because of this misunderstanding, a lot of times organizations are unable to obtain the value, and therefore they end up maybe uh, hiding behind maybe a like a technical landscape and a technical architecture, or they will just look at the business architecture and typically never look at a holistic perspective. I found a gap there, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea to leverage over 3 decades of experience I had in the enterprise architecture space, coupled with a very good domain understanding, at least across the healthcare provider, the pharmaceutical industry, and the financial services domain, to start helping organizations or start working with organizations to define an enterprise architecture, and therefore look at the expected outcomes. So that's typically the genesis for this organization. Interesting backdrop, I think you'll also realize, is that when I say 3 decades, 3 decades normally have seen three major disruptions. One of them, obviously, the emergence of the World Wide Web. The second one, obviously, is the dot-com era, and with that came the information democratization. And the third is maybe where the world that we exist today. We talk about Gen AI, hyper-connected, intelligent ecosystem, and things like that. I My belief was that with the sound foundations on enterprise architecture, the organization ability to succeed either on the strategic goals for maybe leveraging digital transformation or getting closer to their customers, or operational goals of leveraging techniques for continuous improvements and outcomes, or maybe getting better insights from information to help them do better decision support, were immediate opportunities that I was seeing there in the market. And I think those were the reasons that led me to start working on this idea and finally convert it into a small boutique entity that I operate today.
All right, great to know, sir. So, nothing comes that easy to us, and I'm pretty sure that you must have also faced certain sort of challenges in your professional journey or while starting up with a venture. So, if you can please talk about those challenges and also the overcomings for the same.
Yeah, so I think maybe the timing of my choice for movement on this was a little bit of an issue in the sense that I started somewhere in 2019, and 2020 we were hit by the pandemic. So whatever said and done, that was the biggest headwinds that we faced as a business. And while India has continued to give us good opportunities to serve, we still have had major impacts from markets outside India, specifically markets in the Europe and the US. But fortunately for us, and to answer the second part of the question, which is basically in terms of how we overcame it, uh, so Vivika as an organization is a collection of an ecosystem of partners. We bring together our like a set of like-minded professionals into a common forum to address the larger goals of enterprise architecture and the derived value at various layers in the organization. So basically, for us, this ecosystem of partners and our existing business relationships are what kept us afloat. And kind of we are happy to note that maybe especially during the most testing times, we got some really good acknowledgement from the industry. And I would like to maybe just list out a few of those so that there is a there is a like a positivity to the whole challenge ecosystem that we normally face. One was obviously that um, we received from the father of modern enterprise architecture, Dr. John Zachman. We achieved the top global chief enterprise architect by ICMG and John A. Zachman in New York in 2019, predominantly for my role as the chief enterprise architect with India's largest full service integrated health tech platform. Another couple of interesting things that we achieved were that uh, one of the things that I focus on, and maybe this organization Vivika focuses on, is to look at the possibilities of how do we maybe go ahead and create uh, opportunities for public awareness and public accessibility to uh, various services and goods and supplies. So one of the things that we kind of played a role was in the public healthcare space, and through some of the work that we did, either on uh, a group purchasing organization which worked on behalf of hospitals to help improve the overall commercial optimization for the hospitals. This project won the best project of 2022 and the healthcare project of 2022 by the Computer Weekly, the APAC Computer Weekly. We also received a patent during the same time. The platform obtained a patent for the like a NLP, machine learning based data transformation module, which was like earlier this year. And interestingly, both the pieces of work, which was basically the work around population health and its interplay with technology for holistic well-being was recognized by the Institute of Healthcare Improvement, and we were invited to present a poster for the Quality and Safety Forum in Sydney in 22, and in February 23 we were invited to do a similar thing for the group procurement organizations on the healthcare supply chain decision framework. So these, along with maybe work that we are trying to do with a public-private partnership around, for example, the trust ecosystem-led framework for afford like accessibility to good and real e-health data, especially for better healthcare access. And the third part typically being on being able to work on democratizing the healthcare access for both OPD and IPD patients, especially for personalized medication, are some of the pieces of work that helped us tide over this, not only tide over the challenge, but also kind of demonstrate how an ecosystem, if it tends to have a clearly defined value, can start overcoming such challenges and still be able to sustain and survive during the toughest times one goes through. So yeah, I think that's been an experience for the last 3.5, 4 years, and we hope that we can continue doing the same.
Hoping the same for you, sir. And now, if you can please talk about the product and services that you people are providing to market out there, please.
So we are, as I mentioned to you, we are predominantly an enterprise architecture firm, advisory firm. So our focus, as you will see, will typically be all driven on services around the same, just so that maybe we make it simpler for people to understand. We do a current state enterprise architecture maturity assessment and help organizations draw up a roadmap for improvement. We leverage multiple frameworks here. We leverage the TOGAF framework, the Open Group framework. I'm a certified TOGAF enterprise architect. We bring in focus from on architecture governance. We basically bring in focus on maybe areas around change impact analysis, and therefore how can organization, while adopting contemporary ideas and technologies, such as, for example, we hear the word digital transformations or we hear the word Gen AI and whatever, how do they go through the whole impact analysis and therefore maybe look at both the people and the process facets for better adoption of such challenges. We look at doing a lot of work around new product envisioning, especially in the healthcare, health tech ecosystem space. We've done some good products which are today touching over 1 million lives uh, uh, through both accessibility to healthcare as well as maybe bringing in more affordability through better and optimal generation of maybe the things that go into provisioning of healthcare, basically to drive more affordability. So we do a lot of work on the new product envisioning space. We focus on things around business and IT strategy alignment through my ecosystem partners. We bring in maybe fairly focused approaches on uh, ensuring how do we leverage technology to deliver business outcomes. And finally, I think one of the most important aspect that we play on is that from everything that we do, there's a lot of generation of information, and we tend to maybe bring together facets of that in form of insights that organization can use for better decision making. So it's a it's a range of services based on the enterprise architecture domain, and currently our business or industry focus is, as I mentioned earlier, the pharmaceutical, life sciences, healthcare, and financial services, or maybe the peer and domain per se. So that's typically where we operate.
Right, sir. So now, everyone do plans for their future. So if I talk about your future plans, what are they? If you can please share with us as well.
Yeah, so see what happens. See, the beauty of where we exist today, which I think you will agree to that, is that the change is so prominent and is so fast that So we have we've laid out a boundary which said that we will typically work in the domain of enterprise architecture, and our intent will be to look at how we use that for driving accessibility, affordability, and a secure exchange of value across industries. So, for example, I mentioned a few industries thus far; those are our current focus. But our realization is that maybe there are many other industries which are opening up on the same space. For example, we know that the whole airline industry is up for a rejuvenation as we speak now. Uh, the the larger governance body, the IATA, has also realized maybe that there is a need for better interoperability for a more cohesive customer experience. So anything where we will be able to drive through the principles of enterprise architecture, focus on accessibility, affordability, and secure exchange of value, will be the area that we will continue to operate in. And we know that there are numerous facilitating factors here. For example, we know the significant adoption of cloud, and we know the significant adoption of emergence of the hyper-connected world, hyper automation, and so on and so forth. I think those will tend to become maybe the leverage factor that we use on top of our advisory to deliver outcomes to our clients. But the underlying principle in all of these is, and I think that's typically where uh, we've tried to make a difference as an organization as Vivika, is to see how we are able to maybe impact the betterment of the end consumer, or maybe the user or whatever. So I think typically that will continue to be the factor. And wherever we can bring in a more tighter and cohesive working experience with the ecosystem, the public and the private sector, we will continue to do that. So as my role as an enterprise architect, and as a role that Vivika plays as a architecture advisory firm, we collaborate with the various social bodies as well as with government bodies to look at how do we leverage the current ecosystem and facilitate better end user responsiveness. And I think we'll continue to do so as we go ahead in the future.
Great, sir, and I wish you all the success for all these plans of yours. Okay, so now moving ahead, here comes the question which I personally, love to ask our awardees, and that is, what are your feelings on winning this Indian Achievers Award?
So I don't know. I'm like generally not somebody who who like I generally don't have significant elation or depression. That's normally not. I tend to have maybe a normal viewpoint. See, obviously the award has given me good visibility, and has given visibility to the work we do as Vivekta. I think that's more important. And we will continue to strive to see how we can excel in what we do. I already spoke to you about some of the recognition that we had otherwise too. So the intent obviously is to see how these recognitions kind of just keep on motivating us to do our things better, uh, and with more zeal. I think that's what the award has helped me. It's basically helped me, kind of given me a kind of a tick and said, okay, yeah, it means you're doing something right, and continue pursue do that and maybe do it better.
Right, sir, and I once again congratulate you on this achievement of yours.
Thank you so much.
Right. So now, as we have talked about your professional journey so far and whatever plans you are having in the future, if you can also talk about the social, contribution that you're giving to the society, of course, apart from the services that you people are providing to people out there.
Yeah, so I think, and I think I had brought this up in the earlier part of the discussion, but maybe just to summarize, uh, somewhere 30 years back or so, when I came out of my college, I basically came out of the education in biosciences, and I remember like uh, uh, right from, so maybe this was an era before the privatization of internet. And so obviously one of the things that have happened after that, as I mentioned, the disruptions in the world, and the intent here is to be able to passionately work across and leverage on the learnings of these disruptions, and typically address what we may call as the last mile gap for accessibility, affordability, and accountable healthcare. which has typically been my focus at least for the last maybe 15 years or so. So specifically for a country like India, and for that matter, a lot of developing countries, we've worked in Brazil, in Colombia, um, and in maybe other countries such as UAE and Azerbaijan and others. Our intent has been to look at how do we bridge the gap that exists today between the caregiver and the care receiver. um, Factors such as, maybe for example, the doctor to patient ratio or the beds per patient, uh, which will, while whatever growth will happen in the country, and which is basically where we see a significant impetus on, will always, there will always be some level of insufficiency. The intent is that maybe the physical dimension, which is basically through a touch and feel interaction, there will always be a gap, and it will not be able to really address the gap that exists. So one of the things that I believe strongly for Vivekta is that by leveraging what the ecosystem gives us, which is the hyper-connected, intelligent technology backbone, the intent is to see how we can drive affordability and accessibility for quality healthcare. How do we address, maybe, for example, the last mile delivery issues, specifically in a country like India, leveraging the common service centers, the public health services, and also how do we maybe start leveraging and supporting the population health programs, especially ensuring the norms for data privacy that you've seen as a new law that came up, and aspects around the same. So I have personally been able to work very closely in driving such adoption with initiatives along with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the Government of India, with Andhra Pradesh Primary Health Centers at that point of time, the CSC e-governance centers, which are typically maybe the common service centers that public sector has kind of rolled out, and also working very closely with the WHO and the Integrated Health and Information Platform, specifically to get a visibility in terms of both uh, pandemic, like how do we kind of predict pandemic like situations, and how do we maybe also look at what's the kind of health impetus or health impact that is happening because maybe lifestyle diseases and what we may call as chronic disease and so on and so forth. So the intent here is that I've been working with some of these entities here, plus also start now engaging with entities, maybe for example in countries other than India, with an aim to see how do we drive that focus on accessibility, affordability, and accountable healthcare. And I think that's been a social contribution. We'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to do that through maybe a public-private partnership, working closely with both the policy makers as well as maybe with the last mile service providers to ensure that we are able to achieve this objective.
Great to know, sir. What are your thoughts and feelings on Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign that we had, and how is your company working towards that?
So I think, see, we are a services organization, and we are based obviously emerged out of India. So we are like, Make in India is our core focus, and I think what we're doing is we're kind of carrying forth this learning that we have from ecosystem of the nature that we have here, and translate it into maybe other countries. For example, now I'm kind of moving some of the services that we just now discussed with maybe another large generics manufacturer in Thailand. So the intent obviously is that how do we not only build these services, build the underlying frameworks and the processes and the tools and techniques, but also go ahead and see if we can get them published, patented, and accepted at a global scale. I think that's what we will continue to do. And obviously, the initiative around the Atmanirbhar from the government of India is something which is kind of integral to our fabric as we emerge as an entity.
Right, sir. So now, last but surely not the least, what message or mantra you would like to give to our younger generation to become successful in their careers?
So I don't know if this is a mantra or not, but I see sometimes what happens is when you are scarred from the battlefield, which is typically now 30 years of working, we go through our ups and downs. I'm only requesting because I've worked, I'll maybe tell you, maybe for last maybe 15 years or so, I've normally worked in team sizes of anywhere between 350 to maybe 150 odd. Typically, the average age group is about 24 years. So I will call them most of them as maybe the new generation, right? And I think the only thing that I'm requesting, maybe requesting them is that don't think that success comes easy. And if it comes easy, it means that maybe it's just a preparation for maybe something difficult to come forth. So the intent would be that keep on uh, learning, rejuvenating yourself with newer ideas, because if you stop learning and you tend to start demonstrating that you know everything, then maybe that's the start of the end for anybody. So my request will be keep on evolving, keep on learning, especially learn from people who are younger to you, because they have ideas sometimes much better than you may have. And I think that has been one of the reasons for my ability to reach where I am and for Vivika to come up, because for me, every day there is some time dedicated to learning, and I continue to kind of do that because that's the only way I believe I can survive in this domain.
Lovely piece of advice, I must say, sir. So thank you so very much for joining with us today. It was pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the success for all your future endeavors as well. And may you continue to inspire us the way you are doing. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you so much, and thanks for IF to giving us the opportunity to do what we are doing and recognizing us for that.